Now we can do it. So we're talking about the material from Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, and Yechezkel. Okay, even though some of the questions are going to be outside, including but outside, tangential to other Sfarim. Okay, so the question is, if a person were to ask you, what other Navi, and I will, to be more specific, a Navi Emet, Navi Emet, that lived in the same time as Yechezkel, would it be Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, or Zechariah?
Yirmiyahu.
What do you say, Yitzchak?
Yirmiyahu.
It would be Yirmiyahu, right? It's interesting that that with the Sefer Yechezkel, it seems everything is pointing to a most of that material of the everything related to Galut Yehoyachin. So I mean, but you have to know then that the first of all, it'd be kind of tough for Yeshayahu, because I mean, even though it's not explicit, but we know that Menashe killed Yeshayahu according to the Mefarshim. So that would be kind of tough to say that Yeshayahu was at the time of Yechezkel, since Yechezkel was the time of Galut Yehoyachin, time of Tzidkiyahu Melech Yehuda, right? Okay. Then it's also Almin Amar Hanesher Hagadol. Yitzchak.
About the king of Bavel.
Do you have a name?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, but if you really want to highlight, say, oh, Nebuchadnezzar. And the truth of the matter is, by the way, that it's really two names. It's two names, Nebuchad and Netzar or Retzar. You'll see that in Sefer Yirmiyahu, there are sections in today's material where it changes to Retzar versus Nebuchadnezzar. But we know that Lamnar are interchangeable. So Anun and Resh are, the same thing,
Isn't Nevo one of the gods of the Bavel? So probably named after that.
Yeah.
Also Evil Merodach, his son, so Merodach is also one of their gods, which connects to Mordechai, right? Perhaps. That's already...
Also Belshazzar. Baal was a god of theirs.
Right.
But how many generations of Malchut Bavel, starting from Nebuchadnezzar, were his family in charge? It's not a trick question. Laila.
I'm just going to take a guess. I don't know. Is it 4?
And Yitzchak?
There's 3 kings.
Right, because what happens is the material says, about Nebuchadnezzar, then Beno uven Beno, so there was 3. It's interesting, by the way.
It's not written, but does that mean Vashti is that 4th generation?
It would be Nebuchadnezzar, his son, and his son's son. That's what it says, Yeah, there, in Yechezkel Perek Chav Zayin, okay, first of all, it's interesting. What keynote are mentioned on material in Sefer Yechezkel? About whom? Again, it's an open book on this one. Yitzchak.
Tzor and Yisrael.
Is that your final answer?
Maybe also Tzidon.
Yeah, and what else? Melech Tzor. Right? Right. Name me a Navi and a ruler of sorts that died b'chodesh hashvi'i. Laila, again, not a trick question, honestly. Yitzchak?
Hananiah ben Azur and Gedaliah ben Achikam.
Right. It's interesting, by the way. I don't know if you, at least this is my impression, okay? Who saved, in our material, who saved Yirmiyahu's life? The reason why I say in our material, because there were years that there was more material in Yirmiyahu, and it talks about the Eved Melech Cush, okay, that he pulled him up from the board with like some material, like shirts, ruined things, and put it like in his armpits, and he lifted it up. But in our material, go ahead, Lila.
Was it like the Kohanim and the Skenim from like the people, and they were bringing back past cases of other prophets that were killed?
Well, first of all, it can't be the Kohanim. Can't be. They were against him. Okay, so Mishpat Mavet, something like that. Okay, go ahead, Yitzchak.
Achikam ben Shaphan.
Right. So that's why that was the association. What was, so just this, I don't think I can ask, but what was the Gedaliah's full name?
Gedaliah ben Achikam.
Ben Shaphan.
Ben Ataliah.
So my guess is that when it says Achikam ben Shaphan saved Yirmiyahu, that means it's probably the father of Gedaliah. That's just how I interpret it, because look, it's possible that it's some other Achikam ben Shaphan,
Well, he was also the one who came to Yeshayahu from Chizkiah.
Right. Which Navi Emet, I'm just making more specific, had to flee. To where did he flee, and what was the end result? Again, it's in this, by the way, the same area of what we were talking about, Achikam ben Shaphan, the same parent, by the way. And the Koran is the right-hand page. Yes, Yitzchak.
Uriel ben Shmayo Mikiras Yarim.
I had multiple parts to the question.
Oh, he ran to Mitzrayim, and then he was brought out by El Nasa ben Achbor and was killed. He was killed in Mitzrayim and then was brought out.
Right. What is another name for Gay Ben Hinnom? Lila.
Hariga.
Right. What would you say is the number one thing known for Tzor. Again, it's not a trick. By the way, Laila, it's Yecheskel Perek Chavzayin. Right? So what would you say, Laila?
The merchants?
Right? It's interesting, by the way, if you take a look, there's mention of Tarshish in there, right? And Tarshish is not the city, but what is Tarshish there in Chavzayin? Yes, Yitzchak.
It's the stone,
It's a stone.
like the same one that was on the Choshen.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, okay. In our total material, who was a riddler? A riddler. Yeah, you could give me 3 answers for that. So Lila, take one.
Was it Yecheskel? They mentioned something about riddles.
Yecheskel's 1. Who else? Yitzchak.
Chagai.
Only 2 prakim in Chagai.
The second one, when he asked them the Torah.
Hold on. 1 second. Okay, where it uses the word a chida.
Oh, you wanted the word chida? I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Oh, so then Shimshon.
Shimshon is another one, and there's another one. This is, remember, total material. And you'll see my ridiculous association, but how about Malkat Shva? Right, in Lachem Al Perek Yud, like she asked him all the tough stuff, and there she says and what's interesting and which relates to Melachim Yecheskel Perek Zayin is because it mentions Shva in there, and if you take a look, what did she give him? She gave him spices and Even Yikara, which is exactly what it mentions in Perek Zayin, But that's just the how my mind works. Okay. Name me 2 people that it says Vayaga al Pi. Vayaga al Pi.
What is that in English?
What?
What is that in English?
And he touched on my mouth. He touched on my mouth. Vayaga al Pi. Okay. Yitzchak, say 1.
Yeshayahu.
Lila, you can take the second one.
Is it in this week's material?
Yes. Yitzchak.
Yirmiyahu.
What happens in Yirmiyahu, Perek Aleph, it says Vayagal Pi. And in Perek Vav, in Yeshayahu, it says Vayagal Pi. Remember about the Ritzpah and Melkachayim. Okay. This is, okay, semi-trick question. Okay. Al mi ne'emar. Okay, 1 second. Come on, let's go. Get over here. Ki na'ar anochi versus, come on, let's go. Yeah. No. Versus Ba'anuchi na'ar katan. Laila.
Is one of them Yirmiyahu?
I gave you 2 quotes.
The second one?
No. No. Yes, so go ahead. No, Yitzchak, go for it.
Well, I was going to say that Yirmiyahu was Nar Anochi. I don't know who Nar.
He was. Yeah, but she said the second one was.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was going to say that, but I don't know what the other one is.
The other one is
And-
Shlomo HaMelech in Melachim al Per Gimel. Yeah. It's interesting, by the way, okay? In our total material, you have the expression ma'ata ro'eh. What do you see? Okay? So in today's material, we have somebody who had it said to him 3 times. Who was that somebody? And what vision did he see? Yes, Lila.
I think it's Yirmiyahu. And I think I can name maybe 2 out of the 3. The first one was about the staff, I think it's almond branch.
Makel Shakid,
And the
yes.
second one was about the pot where the steam or smoke, whatever you want to call it, was facing north.
Sir Napuach, okay. What's the third? And you have a long story. Tell
Was
me.
it the 2 fig baskets? The one with the really good figs and the one with the really bad figs?
Yes. What is that supposed to represent, by the way? And they can ask you, and by the way, in each one of those, what does each one represent? Yitzchak.
The good figs were the people who went into Golus with Yechanya, and the bad figs were the people who were still in Yerushalayim with Tzidkiah.
Correct. That's that. Yeah. Well, what about the other ones? The two other ones which Lyle said.
Oh, the Makel Shokid is Shokid Ani Al Devari La So, and the Sir Nafuach von Ob Nitzafona was because from Mitzafon Tiposach Haro Al Kol Yoshvei Haaretz.
Right. I don't think it is, but the number 70, okay, is mentioned a few places. One of them, by the way, is not in this year's material, which is Daniel, okay, but there are other places which are mentioned about the 70. Go ahead, Yitzchak.
70 years of Golus Bavel.
Right, but yeah, I'm thinking, we have to try to figure out where does it say it,
Yirmiyahu.
That's in today's material, yes, but it's mentioned other places in our material. I think in Zechariah it mentions that. I wrote down somewhere the others.
Also in Divrei Hayamim.
Yes, the Rim Bay is, yeah. Should be bays, yeah.
And the beginning of Ezra, but it doesn't say 70 there.
How many years, I'm sorry, how many days did Yecheskel have to sleep on his left side? It's not a trick question. But I'll tell you what, you'll see my comment after that. Lila, I'll give you a hint. It's divisible by 3.
180 days?
That is divisible by 3, but that's not the right answer. Yes. Yitzchak.
390 days.
Yeah. So what happens is, yes. So, but it's really interesting because it drove me nuts where it said, oh, from the time they entered Eretz Israel until like the Galut is 390 for each year. So that's impossible. Why would that be impossible? In theory, why is that impossible? Yitzchak?
Because it was 480 years from when they left Mitzrayim until the Beis Hamikdash was built. So even if you subtract 40 years of the Midbar, that's still 440 years.
So how in the world do you get 390, you know? So you have to look in Rashi, and you have to look carefully at what happens is they're talking about, you know, the time that the Malachei Yisrael, because don't forget, the Galut went Hosheh ben Elah, you know, so the Rashi goes in painstakingly say, okay, from Yeravim ben Nevat, all the way to Hosheh ben Elah, and then some extra stuff, and then you get roughly 390. Yes, Yisra.
He also makes the cheshbon how all the Shemitas and Yovels of those years that they weren't keeping the Torah comes out to 70 years.
Right. You want to be careful, okay? I mean, they can ask this. Hold on. No. Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's one place which says, Avot yochelu voser v'shnei habanim tikena. That's in one place in our material. And another place is very similar to that. In today's, like I said, in today's material, just to quote you, is next page, right? Right here. It says Kol Hadam Ha'ochel Haboser Tikhena Shinav. So, you know, it's very similar psukim, words, you know. So the question is, who said what? In which sefer? So Yitzchak, where does it say, Kol Adam Ha'ochel Haboser Tikhena Shinav?
Okay, so it says Avos Yochel Boser Shinav
Sorry, I misread. It says in one place it says Avot Achelu Voser V'Shnei Banim Tikena, you know, versus Avot Yochelu Voser V'Shnei Habanim Tikena. So the only difference is one is Achelu Voser Avot and versus Avot Yochelu Voser.
What does
That's
that
the only
mean
difference.
in English?
What?
What does it mean?
The fathers, the ancestors ate, you know, this type of food, and the teeth of their children will get bashed. Okay. In one place, it starts off lo yomeru od. They will not say that the fathers will have done something bad, but the children will get punished, you know. And in another case, it says the fathers will eat of this bad stuff, and the children will get, you know, the teeth bashed. So one, yes, Lila.
The first one's Yecheskel.
Which one? Yochelu or Achelu?
The one where it says the father will be punished, but the children won't.
See, this is an interesting thing because you know, I apologize because I know it's the English versus the Hebrew. you know, so you're saying that Yechezkel says that the fathers will sin, but the children will be punished?
The children will not be punished.
There actually in both places, you see this whole thing, in both places, it's the same thing because no, look what it says. In one place, I'm going to quote you the pasuk. In these days, lo yomeru od. And by the way, in both places, in our material, they're both saying that the person who sinned will get punished. That's it, both of them. Okay, the only difference in my case is there's a difference of one word. One is achalu and yochalu. Okay, but in both cases, that whoever sinned gets punished. And in fact, we have a situation in last week's material that was the case, right? Okay, so we'll tack on. So Yitzchak.
Okay, so one of them is Yirmiyahu, one of them is Yechezkel. I think Achlu is Yirmiyahu and Yochlu is Yechezkel.
That is correct. Okay.
And you were saying about Amatzia killing the Yozachar ben Shimas and Yozavah ben Shomer, but not their kids.
Right. Now it's interesting, by the way, that in Yirmiyahu it says ki imish ba'avono yamut, and what happens in with Amatzia, he's quoting from Sefer Dvarim. It says ki im ish bechet o yamut. One is ba'avono, and Yirmiyahu is ba'avono. They both mean the sin, by the way. Both mean the sin. So in English, you know, Lila, the fact that you translate into sin, you know, that doesn't guide you as to which one is which. We have another phrase that repeats itself similarly. Again, it's the Hebrew that makes difference. It says, because you have reward for in English it would mean because you have reward for your actions. In one place it says, Kiesh sachar lef'ulatech. Okay, we have other places similar to that. Okay, so where do we have Kiesh sachar lef'ulatech? Because you have reward for your actions, Lila.
Is one of them in Yirmiyahu?
Yes, that phrase is in Yirmiyahu Perek Lamed Aleph, which reminds me, yes, there's a similar thing in Sefer Ruth, but there are a few other places. There's a phrase, it's a Minhag Yerushalayim, that when you pay a Shiva call, one should never know from it, okay? That in Yerushalayim it says, Blo Yosifu L'da'ava Od. Means basically you should know more sorrow. That's what you say to the Nichum Avilim. We have Mokom Yinachem Etchem o Otcha o Ta'ach B'tor Shar Avilei Tzion B'Yerushalayim. Okay, but in Yerushalayim it say B'lo Yosifu L'da'avod. There's I think a Sephardic minhag to say Min Hashamayim Tnuchamu. From the heavens you should be comforted. But where's V'lo Yosifu L'da'avod? It's in today's material. Yitzchak.
Yosifu L'da'avod is in Yirmiyahu. And a similar phrase to what you said, Uvi Yerushalayim Tenuchamu, is in Yeshayahu.
Right. So I was thinking, what, just me, what could be like an idea of differentiating between Yeshayahu versus Yirmiyahu versus Yechezkel. So Yechezkel, it seems that a lot of times he'll give a mashal and nimshal. He'll say the mashal, and then afterwards he'll interpret that. At least that's what it is,
Also, it seems like in Yechezkel, in our material at least, he spent a lot more times in his prophecies from Hashem, whereas in Yirmiyahu, it'll tell you what's happening around him and what he does.
It's possible. I try to find what's the key. It's still not perfect. Yes, Yitzchak.
The way I thought about it was that Yeshayahu was living in a relatively more peaceful time, so he was able to speak with much more allegory, whereas Yechezkel.
Right, so that's and interesting. I think that even it's more poetic.
Whereas Yirmiyahu was very direct and very straightforward.
Right, but also if you take a look at the words of Yeshayahu, I think it's like almost like a play on words. They're very similar. But again, Yirmiyahu is. Now what happens is it's interesting that you have with Yirmiyahu a few Nevi'ei Sheker which were mentioned. In fact, who was? Okay, Laila, Almina Mar or Nikra Magor Saviv.
Something Ben Itamar. I can't remember the first name though.
Yitzchak?
Pashchur ben Imer.
Pashchur ben Imer. Yeah. Yeah. This is an interesting one. Mi on manemar Hashem tzidkenu. Trick question. Laila, you want to give it a shot?
I have
Okay. Yitzchak.
The future Yerushalayim and the future ruler of Yerushalayim.
Right. It's both. The first one was actually that's mentioned Mashiach Hashem. Yes. How many sons do we know of that Yeshayahu had, and what were their names? So it's more than one, possibly. Yes, Yitzchak.
So the one that actually calls his son is She'ar Yashuv. And there's two other ones. There's Immanuel and Maher Shalal Chashbaz, but the Mefarshim are debating whether they were his sons or Achaz's sons and whether they were the same or different babies.
The Immanuel, was of the Alma. And Mefarshim says that it was the wife of Achaz. No, I don't think
some say it means the wife of Yeshayahu.
The Neviah was the wife of Yeshayahu, but Alma was, according to what I understood, is not, of Yeshayahu.
Also, Chazal tell us that the mother of Menashe, Cheftziva, was also Yeshayahu's daughter.
That'd be interesting.
Because he says, Ki lachi karei Cheftziva, irlo ne'azava.
Right. So what happens is, so the other ones, it's like Cheftziba is, that would been, okay, let's hold on. Okay. You know, we know that a person lives for, in theory, of 120 years, right? In theory. According to which Nabi did like the minimum age to show that it's really a good sign, how many years would a person live? Laila, not your question.
Is it Yeshaya?
And how many years?
90?
So close, but no cigar. You're close, you're really close. Yitzchak.
100.
100. 100. Yeah. Hold on. Oh, that's another one. That's another idea. In Yeshayahu, you'll see that the words mishpat and staka are used a lot often. Okay. Oh, but which reminds me, there's a famous, this question we're going to ask you has been asked in past Chidon Tanakh Olamis. Okay, they would ask, what is a material that can keep things for a long time, and in connection to what does it talk about? Yes, Laila.
Is it clay, or it's like, and in connection it could be with Yirmiyahu and the deed to his uncle's field in Anatot. He gives it to Baruch, if I'm not mistaken, to put into the clay pot. I don't think pot's the term, but the whatever it is, to keep for a long time.
It's interesting that you used uncle. You know, I didn't, it could be. I never understood that as uncle. You know, for example, ready? The word achyan in Hebrew is nephew. Achyanit is niece. And a first cousin is called ben dod. Like my cousin Yossi Stepensky, who lives in Sfat, is a ben dod sheli, Yossi. Okay, so I thought that the person that to whom you were referring was a first cousin, not an uncle. And who would, well,
wasn't
who's
it
that
his
guy?
uncle, like the cousin came, but wasn't it talking about the uncle's field?
No, I don't.
The first pasuk says Chanamel ben Shalom Dodi, which makes it sound, or ben Dodcha, which makes it sound like Shalom is the uncle.
Which parak is that? Let's see. It's a famous parak.
Lamed Beis.
Duh, no kidding. Lamed Beis. So let me take a look.
There's another pasuk that says Chanamel Dodi.
No, it says Vayavo Elai Chanamel ben Dodi.
But then it
Ben
says, I
Dodi.
gave the Sefer to Chanamel Dodi.
Yeah, but but what happens?
In the English, it says my uncle's son, which would make it his cousin.
No, it says twice, pasuk chet and pasuk tet. It says Vaiknet hasadem eit Chanamel ben Dodi, and that's in pasuk tet. Pasuk chet says Vayavo Elai Chanamel ben Dodi kidvar Hashem el chaser hamatara. You know. By the way, it's interesting. So I always thought it was that his first cousin, Chanamel ben Shalom, and Shalom was the dod. That's how I understood it. You know, that's interesting. We have in
In
our Torah
Pasuk Yud Beis, it
material.
calls him Dodi.
What?
In
the
Pasuk Yud
initial-
Beis,
Say it again?
in Pasuk Yud Beis, it says Chanamel Dodi.
Yeah, but I still believe that I apologize. I didn't look at the impression here. This past week. Okay, but to me there has been Dodi twice. Yeah, I have to believe that it's the first cousin. But continue on. So what happens is they ask this question at least twice in the past. They've asked this in the international contest, okay? And they say, and they answer obviously with this whole Chanamel, Chanana ben Shalom. And what happens is that he says he puts it, that he's told to put the Sefer HaMiknah into Cheres, because it says here, Leman Yamdu Yamim Rabim. It's a classic. Leman Yamdu Yamim Rabim. Okay. So, first of all, they could ask you, how much did he pay for the land, right? And how much did he pay for the land, Laila?
17 shkalim, like silver coin.
Did you say 17? I could have sworn you said 17. I didn't understand that. I heard 7 shkalim and 10 kesef. No, that's what it says. It's in pasuk tet.
In the translation, it just says 17 shekels of silver.
I listen. You go with your English. I can't argue with English. To me, shiva shkalim, basra kasef. To me, it's two different things. But it sounds like what they're doing, which I don't understand why, not fully, is they're saying that shekel, since it says shiva shkalim basara, and they say hakasef, and hakasef goes on both things, which to me that doesn't make sense.
And Rashi says all the shkalim in Nevi'im are monim,
which would be much more. There is mention in our Torah material the concept of mishpat hageula. Where?
Sorry, mishpat what?
Mishpat hageula, the law of redemption. The law of redemption. In our Torah material. It's not a trick question. Yitzchak.
So by Yirmiyahu.
Right here, we have it says, Mishpat Hagu'ula Liknot. Okay, that's one. Where's the other one?
By Rus.
In chapter 4 of Rus, what happens is, remember there was the Ploni Almoni Hagoel, right? We're not going to talk about who took off whose shoe. That's another whole question. It's interesting that the word Moznaim, I wonder how many times it's mentioned, Moznaim, like a scale, Here's another one. And again, I don't know how it works in English, but in the Hebrew, there are, I'll read the words in Hebrew, okay? And then I'm going to tell you that this similar phrase is mentioned, I think, 3 or 4 places in our Torah material. It says, Od yikanu vatim b'sadot uchramim ba'aretz hazot. Means more shall be purchased, houses and fields and vineyards in this land. But here, in this place, it says yikanu, and other places it says slightly different, So I just want you to know Who thought that it's like kochi ba'otzem yadi? Oh, I am so strong. In today's material. And we know, and since in Beit Hanan, Perek Chet, it's not in our material, so they can't ask you about our kochi ba'otzem yadi in Ekev. In Ekev, right? Okay, so who thought, man, I'm it. Yes, Nava? Yitzchak.
The king of Tzor.
Where? I'm being serious when I say where.
In Perek Chav Zayin or Ches. You're looking for the phrase kochi v'otzem yadi?
Something like kochi. Hold on. Just 1 second. Definitely, I mean, I don't think it says that in Chav Zayin, Cheskel Chav Zayin. But I'm thinking of something else. The answer what I was looking for is Melech Ashur. Melech Ashur. You know, with Yirmiyahu. You know, like what happens is he thought not the no, that's too easy. Come on. I'm drawing a blank, but I'm almost positive it had to do with Melech Ashur, that he was saying, and he thought he was so great. And what happens is that no. No. I apologize, but Kurswan is Melech Ashur. No. So it's you know, it's interesting. I mentioned you have to be careful. Yes. So I thought of who had avotim is like ropes, or ropes put on them. Avotim in Hebrew, avotim, in a total material. Well, one was Shimshon, avotim. Okay, you have actually two places with Shimshon. One was the Anshe Yehuda. That's in Perek Tes Vav, and in Perek Tes Zayin with Lila Avotim. You have also, I could have sworn it was in Yirmiyahu Avotim. You know, unfortunately, I just, my brain cells.
Is it about Baruch?
What, Baruch Ben Neriah?
Yeah, I don't think it's on the material.
There is, it's mentioned avotim, trust me, in this week's material. No. Hold on. Hold on. It's I'll go to the concordance. So if Amichai is on, maybe you can save time looking avotim.
If you tell me how to spell it, I can type it into
It's
Safari.
Ayin Vez Vav Taf Yud Mem Sofit avotim.
Okay, hold on. It says it 11 times in the Tanakh, one in Tehillim, which we don't have.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Okay.
In
First
Yechezkel,
of all,
it says
it says
and
in
Shoftim.
Shoftim Perek Tesvav, which we mentioned, that's the Yudah. Then Dlila, you have in Yechezkel Perek Gimel, Natnu Alech Avotim Ba'asarucha. Right. Avotim Yudim, Ba'avotim, no. Really, only two? I thought there was another one.
In Yechezkel, there are
Yechezkel, it
6
mentions.
cases where it says Avotim.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting, why did Yechezkel draw on, let's say, some stone, a picture of Yerushalayim? And what was it supposed to show? Yes, Yitzchak?
Well, he was supposed to make war against it and like stare at it and try to figure out how to get in to symbolize the king of Bavel, Nebuchadnezzar, trying to get into Yerushalayim.
Yeah, but there's another thing, but it's interesting because it says that he was going to not be able to talk unless he was told to talk. So I figured that he's drawing this because he can't talk. So he's just showing them, hint, hint, by the way, this is what's going to happen. It's interesting because it mentions Dayek and Sola, exactly what you have in Mlachim Beis, Perek Chafei. What flies there. Who was the person who's said that the clay Beit HaMikdash would return from Bavel in 2 years? Yitzchak.
Hananiah ben Azur.
Right. So it's I'm just trying to see if I wrote. Just terrible. Right. When we mentioned about a crazy person, Meshuga, right? In today's mitzvah we also have that phrase, and about whom does it say l'chol ish mishuga? Yes, Yitzchak.
Shmayo and Echalami wrote to Fanya and Maseo that Yirmiyah was he said you're in charge of taking care of every Ish Mishugo Misnabe, and why didn't you get mad at Yirmiyah on Sosi?
Yeah. It's interesting that we have Anatot in our material, in our total material, about whom? Because I want to say, yes, Laila.
Yirmiyahu is from Anatot, but it also, I believe, says that Eli's ancestor, Eviatar Cohen, I believe it was exiled to Anatot.
Right. Yeah. This is what I was looking for. All right. This phrase.
Also, one of David's men, Aviezer Hoan Sosi.
Antoti. Actually, somebody just brought yesterday in Shiur in the afternoon. So he's bringing down Shmuel Beis Perek Chavdalad, it's about about counting Machatzit shekel, so what happens is Yoav did not use that, So of course he didn't ask how long did the person go out? Did Yoav go to count? To me, it's also interesting that you could say in a certain sense, that Shaul, it says Hatlaim, so did he count by sheep, or they say Tlaim is a place, but so the question, and then it says, how many choices was David HaMelech given? So 3 choices, there was, do you have a Rav for 7 years? Do you have to flee for 3 months? Or do you have a Dever for 3 days? And then of course he asks, how many people were died in that plague of Dever? Lila.
Was it 70,000?
70,000, right. I told him that, how did, some Farshim would say that David HaMelech actually chose which one he wants, and the Dever. But the question is, how did he know to choose the Dever? It was a really tough one, right? Out of the 3. So I said to him that one of them Farshim says, if you take a look in Tanakh Koren, if I'm mistaken, it's on the left-hand page, 2nd line, in Perek Shmuel Beis Perek Daled. So it says, again, I could be mistaken. Yeah, it was lucky guess, second line. It says, when given the choice, Ata da'urei mashiv sholachi davar. So the Radak, I made a comment, the Radak says, Mashiv Shulchi Davar. How should I answer? Radak says, Davar are the same letters as Dever. And that's how David HaMelech chose Dever. Like Natan was telling him, God was telling him, hint, hint, pick Dever. So he couldn't say Dever, he said Davar. It's really cute, Anyhow, let's getting back to our questions here. It's really interesting when I was going over this. In Sefer Yechezkel, which happens to be one of the Haftarot. Oh, that's nothing. Oh, sorry. There's a certain phrase that is mentioned in Yechezkel, very interesting, a couple of times, at least 2 times, might have been 3, that about hope. Okay. What in connection to what is this hope? And I believe that there is an allusion to this in the Israeli national anthem. Yitzchak.
So when he saw the bones rising up, and he said that the people have given up hope like these dry bones, but I'm going to give them ruach.
It says, Avadat tikvatenu. So what happens in Hatikva, it says, Lo avadat tikvatenu. Okay, but that phrase is mentioned I think at least one other time in Sefer Yechezkel about losing hope, you know. But it's interesting that, did I write down? No, but no. Okay, there, I think in Yechezkel there is a difference between Yirmiyahu in the sense that how you see Yehuda and Ephraim. Ephraim being what? And what is Yehuda? What does Ephraim symbolize? In our material, not your question, honestly. What does Ephraim symbolize? Yitzchak.
Malchus Yisrael.
Malchut Yisrael, okay. And Yehuda is, of course, Malchut Yehuda. So the question is, what is the difference between Yechezkel and Ephraim in this sense? See, I view it that would have. Lyle, you want to say something? Or Nava? Yechezkel. Yitzchak.
Well, Yechezkel talks about how they're both going to be together and have one king under David, and Yirmiyahu talks.
In other words, you have two trees, Eitz Echad and Eitz Echad, and they'll become one, right? However, with Yirmiyahu,
he says, "Havein Yakir li Ephraim."
Yeah, but I took it from a different aspect, that you could see that there are two different bodies that it's on left-hand page in Yirmiyahu, where it says that Yehuda will not interfere with Ephraim. So they're like two separate things. They haven't yet merged, you know.
As Yeshayahu says, Ephraim lo yatzoros Yehuda, Yehuda lo yatzoros Ephraim.
It's Yeshayahu, so it's Yeshayahu, and they're two separate things.
Ephraim lo yikanes Yehuda.
It's interesting. In Mincha on Shabbat, what happens is it says there's a section called Ata Echad v'Shimcha Echad, right? It says and Goy Echad ba'aretz, and what happens in Yechezkel says V'asit otam legoy echad ba'aretz. So it's interesting in the davening in Shemar Mincha on Shabbat, it says Goy Echad ba'aretz, which is in Yechezkel. Right. Okay. There's in our total material, there's a phrase which says, I will put like, I won't say a nose ring, but a sort of like a ring in the cheek. About whom does that say? Total material. Okay, I knew I forgot to ask last week. That's it. So that's a hint, by the way. Lila.
Well, when you said nose ring, I thought of Eliezer giving one to Rivka, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry, my hearing.
When you said nose ring, I thought about Eliezer.
Oh wait, I know. I sometimes I say it's a ring. Think of it like a, in the cheek, to be a specific. You see, what happens is the terminology in Hebrew is chachim, chet yud mem sofit. So it's sort of like a ring in the cheek. So that's you can pull it. Sometimes you'll see a cow or a cow which has a ring in here, so you can yank in and direct it. Okay, go ahead, Yitzchak.
So Yeshayahu said Samti Chachi be'apecha, that's in the nose. That is that Sancheriv. But then also, I think this week Yechezkel talks about Gog, how Hashem is gonna bring him to Eretz Yisrael, and there I think he says with the cheek.
V'natati chachim bil chayich. That happens to be with Gog, Melech, Magog. Okay, in today's material, but you have regarding Sancheriv, by the way, it's interesting. I just thought of another thing. You'll see it's really fascinating. We have in today's material a person named Micha. Who was he, and what did he say? From where was he? In fact, to give you a hint, let me see. Where do we go? Where'd it go? Huh? That's it. What? Whoa. 1 second. Did I skip over? I skipped over one of the guys? Really? Wow. 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 So one second. Where's does anybody have the list of the review material?
I have them.
Yeah. Well, what is next week's? Next week and the week after?
I'm pretty sure we probably do 3 of them next week, maybe.
We're doing Triasar next week, right? But what is did I leave out one guy? What is next week's material?
Next week is the 6th. We have Hoshea, Yoed, Amos, and Yonah.
And the week after, please.
Chavkuk, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi.
That's good. Well, time out. Holy cow. 20, 24.
You didn't do Micha on the list.
Yeah, that's what I'm just noticing. Yeah, wow. So is it that doesn't fly? So I'm just trying to figure out how do I do this. So either Micha is going to have to be next week or the week after. That doesn't. Was it 11, 20, 24? Just doesn't cut it. Well, okay, Amichai, if you're on, we're gonna have to tack on Micha. Jesus, thank you very much. It's good that I asked the question here. So add on the next week will be Micha also. Okay, so where is Micha from? Where is he? Okay, which happens to be, by the way, in a sense, in today's material. Yes, Lila.
Is he mentioned in Sefer Yirmiyahu as like they gave 2 examples of what happened when they listened to a Navi and when they didn't listen? And Micha was one, I think, Chizkiyahu listened to.
But where's he from? Yes, Yitzchak.
Marisha.
It says Micha Hamorashti. You're right. It was in Yirmiyahu, Lila. But there's something else I wanted to again. Just it saves me time. I know on the right-hand page. It's got to be in the 20s. Hold on. right, no. Right here. Okay, it's in Per Chavav. If it's interesting, what happens is he quotes Tzion Sadeh Techaresh B'Yerushalayim Iyim Tiyeh V'Har Habayit Levamot Ya'ar. If you take a look, that happens to be exact pasuk in Micha Perek Gimel pasuk Yud Bet. That pasuk. Yes, Yitzchak.
Well, over there it says Iyin with a nun.
Yin, yeah, yes. But it's interesting. What is the similar? Okay, what is the similarity? Not 100% similarity between Yeshayahu and Micha. Yes, Lila.
They happen at the same time. Not a
That that I couldn't be asking that question. That it can't be. That's too easy. Yes, Yitzchak.
First of all, they both seem to have very similar styles, but Perek Beis of Yeshayahu and Perek Daled of Micha are almost identical.
Remember, it says Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, right? And then it says v'chitetu charvotam. There are two. One is Yilmedu and one's Yilmedun, right? And there's one other change, there. But it's almost verbatim, Yes.
And the Rambam says that Micha accepted the Torah from Yeshayahu, so it makes sense that he would say similar things.
Yeah, we did that, right? Right. Yes. Who said to whom, Asuli katov v'chayashar be'inechem? Who said to whom, Asuli katov v'chayashar be'inechem? Yes, Yitzchak.
Yirmiyahu said to the Kohanim and the Sarim.
I can't agree to that. Okay, because if you take a look in Perek Chavav, it says, "Vayomer Yirmiyahu el kol hasarim vel kol ha'am lemor, Adonai shlachani linavei el habayit hazeh vel ha'ir hazot, et kol dvarim sheshmatem," blah 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 blah, and then it says, "Vani hineni b'yadchem asli katov v'chayshar b'einechem." Right? And then it says, "Vayomru asarim kol ha'am el ha'kohanim v'hanavim ein la'ish hazeh mishpat mavet." So the answer would have to be, the Yirmiyah said, to the Sarim and the Am, okay, it's they were the ones who stood up for him. This guy's not mishpat mavet, right? Which is, it's interesting because we have Bnei Mavet, Ish Mavet, and here's Mishpat Mavet. It's interesting that we have in our material today many different phrases which mean like a Beit HaSohar, like a prison. What were they? What were the phrases? Yitzchak?
The Chatzar HaMatorah, the Tzinok and HaPeches.
So the question, yes, the question is, what are these? Just they can't ask this, But the question is, one way, some people say that It's very interesting, by the way. One is like a stockade, a pillory that you would have a wood and you put your head through it, and then you could then beat you up, you know. Some people say that that's the tzinok. Chatzar hamatara, right? It's, you know, it's just very interesting. What are the names, and you'll see why, okay, what are the different names of a Navi? Not people, but what, like, you know, like smart, you know, but what, yes, Laila.
They call a Navi somewhere, I don't know if it's in this week's material, a roe, like a seer.
Mata roeh means, what do you see? By the way, the mata roeh, by the way, we talked about that, right? 3 times. Who else in our Torah material is asked mata roeh? By the way, Lila, I cannot agree with what you answered, but anyhow, but just as parenthetically, who was asked mata roeh? In each of these cases, the answer was 2. They were asked 2 questions. We said Yirmiyahu has 3. Okay, Yitzchak.
Zechariah.
Zechariah was asked twice. Mata roeh. Who else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Yes, Yitzchak.
Amos.
Hey, yeah. What was he asked?
He said Mo'ata roeh Amos v'omar anach.
Anach. It's like a plumb line to measure the wall. There was one other thing that he was asked for. And Zechariah was Perek Daled, I think it was. Yeah.
By
So
the menorah.
Menorah. Yeah, we know that. Yeah. But so what was one of the names for a Navi? Why? First of all, what is a Navi? Okay, why is a Navi called Navi? No, not your question. Just stam. Why, Yitzchak?
It's like a speaker, like Gorin Niv Svasayim.
Niv Svatayim. Okay. What else? What another word you have? Go ahead.
Jose.
What?
Jose.
Jose, right? Seer. What's another word?
Also a roa, like Lila said.
Sofer.
Ilana v'ayom yikarel fonim haroeh.
Sofer. Sofer.
That's not what it says in Shmuel.
Yes. Yeah. It's in Shmuel al Perites, but Sofer. But I was thinking about it just this time, and it's interesting because with Yechezkel, it mentions Sofer, but it says Pitzei Picha, like open your mouth. But it's interesting, Pitzei is exact letters of Sofer, So it's almost like play on words, of Pitzei, open your mouth, like we say nib sfatayim, right? He's using the lips to open up. So Pitzei Picha is the Sofer. And we know we had also Sofer in some other place. Where do we have Sofer in another place? Not a Navi. Not Navi. Not Navi. Who? Are we running a marathon? That was the hint. No. Okay. Kimrutzat. Yitzchak.
So the David's lookout, the Tzofa saw someone running by himself, and also Yeshayahu says Kol Tzofayich and also
Kol
not so cool.
Yes. So that was with Achimatz, right? Yes. Hold on. Where's that? Hold on. That's where is that? Come on, guys. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, we have a bracha, Yisimcha Hashem Kefram and Moshe, or Yisimcha Hashem Kisara Rachel, you know. So where do we have, on a negative note, Yisimcha Hashem? Not a trick question, honestly. And by the way, interesting, you'll see Yitzchak.
Yisimcha Hashem kitzidkiyoch echa vasher kolom melech v'ohel boish.
So it's interesting that if you take a few psukim before that, that's correct, by the way. It says Achav, you know, it says Achav ben Koliyah v'Tzidkiyahu ben Ma'asyan hanivim lechem b'shmi sheker, you know. It's interesting because, hold on, I just want to look something up. No, just 1 second. Right. Hold on, next pasuk here. Doesn't say that. Yeah. So you could say, Almina ma asher asun nevala b'Yisrael versus tiyeh ka'achad hanavalim b'Yisrael. Both are in our total material. So Almina ma, again, tiyeh ka'achad hanavalim b'Yisrael versus asher asun nevala b'Yisrael. Okay, Yitzchak.
So Tamar told Amnon that Atotiheh ke'achar nevalim b'Yisrael.
Right. And
what was the other one?
Asher asun nevala b'Yisrael.
Is that by Nevi'eh Sheker?
That is within the Nevi'eh Sheker. Yan asher asun nevala b'Yisrael vayinafu et neshei reihem vayidabru davar b'shmi sheker asher lo tzivtim v'anochi hayodea va'ed ne'um Hashem. You know. Right. What's this? This is where do we know that? From where do we know that there's you are supposed to pray on behalf of the government that you're under? From where do we know? Not your question. Yitzchak.
The letter that Yirmiyahu sent down to Bavel.
The what?
That you should seek out and daven for the peace of the city that you were exiled to.
Right. So we have there's so much to ask. It's on the right-hand page, right? not this one. Come on, come on, come on. No, come on. What? Yeah, right here, paragraph test. ודרשו את שלום העיר אשר הגליתי אתכם שמה, והתפללו ועדה אל אדוני, כי בשלומה יהיה לכם שלום. Now, this phrase, ready? בנו בתים בשבו ונטעו גנות ואכלו את פריין, is very similar. We have it in 2 to 3 other places. I'll just quote you an example. Okay, hold on. And they could easily ask you, where is this from? So it says in another place, ready? ובנו ערים נשמות וישבו ונטעו חרים ושתו את יינם ועשו גנות ואכלו את פריהם. Right. One says בנו בתים, בנו בתים ושבו ונטעו גנות ואכלו את פריין. And then one says ובנו ערים נשמות וישבו. So one is future, one is past tense. There is a difference. One says v'achlu et prihem, as v'achlu et piryan. Then you have another case where, okay, again in today's material. So two, which I'm quoting, which I'm totally quoting, is in today's material. Yeah. Another thing says, Uvanu vatim v'natu chamim v'yashvu labetach. Doesn't say about prehend. So, you have, if I were to quote that, you'd have to say, I ask you, where is that from? So if I ask you, where does it say Uvanu vatim v'natu chamim v'yashvu labetach? Where is that? Lila.
Yirmiyahu tells the people who go to Galut Bavel to do that.
No. Yitzchak.
Is that Amos?
Not again. It's in Yechezkel, Perek Chav Ches. So this is what I'm trying to highlight, is that you have similar psukim, but slight changes. And you're all thinking of the right similar phrases, but when I said v'yashvu labetach, it says, first of all, past, uvanu vatim v'natu chamim v'yashvu labetach, is in Yechezkel Perek Chav Ches pasuk chavav. You have b'nu vatim v'shevu v'natu ganot v'chlu et piryan, all future. Okay, that's in Yirmiyahu. Perek Chav Tes, pasuk hey. Then in Amos, Perek Tes, towards the very end, Perek Tes pasuk Yudalid. Okay, it says uvanu arim, not batim. Uvanu arim nishamot. Yashavu v'nat'u chramim v'shatu et yeinam. So you have two differences, arim and yeinam. So it's to understand, trying to remember which one is which. Not easy. No, thank God I'm not in the Chidon Tanakh Olami. I fail. It's trying to figure out in the brain to sink in which is which. I mean, the easy psukim between Yishayahu Perek Beis and Micha Perek Dalid. That's easier, much easier compared to this. Here you have, for example, okay, in Aritil, Hine scharo ito uf'ulato lefanav. Where's that? Hine scharo ito uf'ulato lefanav. That's very similar to Yirmiyahu Perek Lamed Aleph. You know, Yitzchak.
Yeshayahu.
It's in Yeshayahu, right? Perek Samach Beis. Here's another one, similar. You have, not too similar to that, but Ayei kinatecha ugvurotecha hamon me'echa v'rachamecha elai hitapaku versus hamu me'ai, right? Which one? Ooh, where? Yitzchak.
Hamon me'echa v'rachamecha is in Yeshayahu, and Hamu me'ai lo is in Yirmiyahu.
Right, Aven Yakili Ephraim. Okay. And here's another one. Ready? I'm going to quote you. Anachnu hachomer va'ata yotzerenu versus kine hachomer biyad hayotzer. Laila.
What do they mean in English?
Okay. We have in the nighttime of Yom Kippur, the Kol Nidrei davening, okay, a song. If you like West Rogers Park, two Chabad guys, just beautiful. The woman playing the cello is, it's to die for. It's great, you know. And it's the Chod. Bum 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 ba dum da 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 dum bum da 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 dum ba da. And it draws you. I mean, if you're into music, it really draws. It's like we are the material, and you, and we are like the material in the hands of a creator. Okay. But or that's we, you know, nachnu was ki hine kachom biyad hayotzer v'sotom. It's just what happens. I used to use a Shlomo Kabach. Eile ki hine kachomer beyad hayotzer. It's a minor melody if you know music, okay, which fits in. It's a very let's get into the mood here, you know. It's Yom Kippur, you know. But I can't resist when I heard you know, of this West Rogers Park. It's great. I mean, it just moves. Yes, Yitzchak.
So Yeshayahu said, "Anachnu hachomer v'ata yotzreinu," and Yirmiyahu said, "Hinei hachomer b'yad hayotzer." Or Yashem said to Yirmiyahu. Yeah.
What happens is it's in Perek Ches. Yud Ches, I think Yud Zayin. Yud Ches. I know it's on the left hand page. Yeah, Yud Ches. Actually mentions
material.
What?
Yud Zayin's not on the material.
Yeah, you say it's Yud Ches, but Ches is fine. Right. So if you remember that that Yeshayahu says Anachnu and Vata Yotzreinu, but what happens in Yirmiyahu, it's Kinei Kachomer B'yad Yotzer. It's no Yotzreinu, no, you know. Again, this is it's interesting because in Yeshayahu, it's interesting. You would have thought that it's Yirmiyahu. Hal ele titapa kashem techze utaninu ad maod. Ele, you know, it's like ele eskara, you know. But right. See, there was 3 names given to Yerushalayim, right? What in Yeshayahu? What were they? What were the 3 names that sort of like names to Yerushalayim, which were? Oh, please, I love you. I desire you. I know a young lady. Now she's not young. She's probably only about a year and a half younger than me. A year and a half younger than me. But yes, Yitzchak.
One is Chefziva. One is Be'ula.
Let's say, yeah. Let's say
Eretz HaKodesh and Ir Lo Ne'ezava.
See, is it Ir Lo Ne'ezava? Drusha could be named Drusha. Yeah, that's come up. Yeah. Chefziva Drusha and Ir Lo Ne'ezava. See, Ulartzech Bula is not a name, but Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim.
It's on the same phrase. Yikarei Chefziva Ulartzech meaning will be called Be'ula.
Yeah, Ulartzech, but Yerushalayim. Right? So, Ir Lo Ne'ezava. It's there's another question, or sometimes they ask who said this. And it's not hard. Is it here? Is it? No, just one second. Yes. Who said? Im lo vriti yomam v'layla chukot shamayim va'aretz lo samti. In which sefer? In which sefer? Not trick question. Yes. Yitzchak.
Yirmiyahu.
So you remember almost finished of Lamed Gimel. Right? Let's go back to this. See, it's interesting. You have in Yirmiyahu Perek Chav Tes, it says, Latei lachem acharit b'tikva. So you remember we sort of love the tikvatenu, but in Yirmiyahu it does mention Latei lachem acharit b'tikva. That's when he talks about 70 years, and after 70 years, this is another, I talked about psukim, which, asher lo te'achalna meroa. Where else, about what? And where else do we have something very similar to that? Yisra.
By the bad figs. And also by Paro's dream. The bad stalks.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's right. We talked about that. Just 1 second. I just want to look up this. Okay, yeah, okay. It's a two-part question. No, nobody read that. Right. Okay. In connection to what do we have motot barzel versus karnei barzel? Motot barzel versus
Flotat.
karnei barzel. Motot are like they're not let's say boards of steel versus iron versus steel versus the horns of steel. Does that help, Lila? And not your question, honestly. Yeah, Yitzchak.
After Hananiah and Azra broke the wooden owl and then the wooden motos, so Yirmiyahu made, instead of them, was barzel, and Tzidkiyahu and Kanana made karnei barzel.
Right. Yes, that's so. I'm just trying to think of how to ask this question. Who ate food that was really not edible? Lila,
Was it Yecheskel?
what did he eat? Let's assume that you were right. Well, so what did he eat? Did he eat wood? Eat a spoon? No. And then, it's not this. I'm telling you, this wasn't a trick question. Yitzchak.
He ate a Megillah, and he was also going to eat disgusting bread, but then he ate less disgusting bread.
But it's bread, what happens is interesting. There's some phrases, I think in Pirkei Avot, that it's interesting. I don't know if they would ask how much was he supposed to eat? But there's the answer I was looking for was Megillat Sefer. Megillat Sefer, Yeah, you see, I would not agree that, I understood. I don't think that Emmanuel was the Yeshua's son. I still think it was Achaz's son, It's interesting because what happens is you have in Hosea, you have 3 children that, were supposed to symbolize, for next week,
It's Israel, Lo, Reuma, and Noami, right?
Right. And you see, Meher Shalal Chashbaz is one of the names of Yeshayahu's kids, it says, you know, ויקרא בלן ויבטר ותלבן ויאמר השם אלי קרא שמו מהר שלז חשבז. All these names are symbolic of what will be in reference to what, you know.
Or some say the Neviah is the wife of Achaz, who was actually a Neviah.
Yeah, but you know, stamp shot is right. What does the number 65 come to mind? 65 in today's material. Yes, Yitzchak.
Yeshayahu says another 65 years Ephraim will break from being a people.
Say it again.
And
Ephraim
another
will
65 years Ephraim will break from being a people.
Oh, from being people, right? Meaning that's the galut. Right, yes. Which they do cheshbon now, you know. It's interesting. I was thinking, who cursed the day that they were born? It's a semi-trick question. Semi-trick question. Yes, Laila.
Yirmiyahu.
So the reason why Yitzchak am I saying is a trick question? Why? Why Yitzchak?
Because also Eov.
See, this is, it says, the Torah is by kalel et yomo, right? So the question is in Eov. Okay, hold on. No. Yes, let's go. See, what happens is it's paragimel is not in our material. Okay, the question really is and it's a tough question because you know in Tanakh Koren, that by Kalat Yomo is in paragimel pasuk aleph, not, and that's not in material. That's why I said it's a trick question. Do you count, for example, this won't make a difference, is that what is the first pasuk of Vayishlach? It depends, where does Perek Lamed Beis start? That's the question, you know, but it's still not material. But here, by Kalat Yomo, with the Yov, in my Tanakh, Perek El Pasuk Aleph, Achrechein Patach Yov et Piu by Kalat Yomo, you know, but we definitely Yirmiyahu. You know, it's a sad state that to person. It's interesting. Do you know that Keren Ben Shemen is a place in Israel? It's on Route 443 in Israel. There's a famous route that you can travel. It shows you all the different old things that they grew. I mean, clearly you see in Perek Aleph and in Perek Hey, I told you Mishpat and Staka. You constantly see it throughout. Right. It reminds me. We talked about last week Shen Habim, right? So there's something very similar in today's material, but it doesn't mean that. Okay, even though you might have thought that. Remember in Perek Chav Zayin, there's some interesting words. What was it? Hold on.
Doesn't it say, it says they bought 3 horns of ivory and ebony.
Yeah. So what happens is, it says in Hebrew, it says v'havanim, So what happens is interesting thing. They say in pasuk, it's the 15th pasuk in Perek of Zion. It says shein v'hovnim yeshiva eshkarech. So that's a unique word. Hovnim is translated as a peacock. It's a peacock. It's interesting, like you could have said that maybe it sounds like that Shen Habim, we talked about as the ivory, and Shane, and the word Shane is right before it was tooth, which would be like an ivory, but it's interesting. Listen, the few other words, it's very interesting in Perek of Zayin Chaskel. I don't think they'll ask, but you have, it says V'tzemer Tzachar. Do we have someplace else that you could think of? Well, first of all, what does Tzachar mean? And based on that, do we have something in our material which is like that? Yitzchak?
I think that means like shining white.
Okay, it means white, yes. Do we have anything similar in our total material?
The name Ephraim ben Sochar, but I don't think it has to do with it.
Yeah. If you take a look in Shirat Borah, it says, I think it's Sichorot, which means white. You also have Kida v'kaneh, but they can't ask that because that's not a material in Shmot and Kitisa, but right in the terms of the Torah, those things, right? Amine Amar Batitein Libecha Kalev Elohim. Amine Amar. Laila?
What does it mean? Sorry.
Okay, and he made his heart like the heart of a god.
This is a complete guess, but is it the Prince of Sur?
Yeah, you could say that, yeah. L'nagidso, l'ngidso, yeah. Right. So he's like saying, he's scolding. Who do you think you are? It was another. By the way, it's just a stam. Stam, that is what I'm going to say. It's not testament. Is not a question. You hear it just says in Perek Zayin, V'dan v'yavan mu'uzal. Mu'uzal is like we saw va'ata merivavot kodesh, right? That's in V'zot HaBracha, right? So va'ata is really like an Aramaic word. So me'uzal means azla, means going. So you have a Hebrew word, which is like an Aramaic word. Me'uzal is like we had, where else did we have azal? Again, they can't ask that, but where's azal? Now, of course, Yitzchak is going to tell me Shmuel Aleph, Perek Tes. You're right. Okay, where? Yitzchak.
So there's 2 places I can think of. There's Halechem Azal Mikelenu that you said, but there's also Ra Yomar HaKoneg V'Ozel Lo Aziz Halo in Mishlei.
Mishlei. It sounds like Mishlei without even, By the way, famous Perek Gimel. That's right, which is when we talk about Zolel B'Sovei, in Perek Aleph. So what happens is you have that there. But if you take a look in Yeshayahu, right? In sov'ech, right? I think it's Yeshayahu Perek Aleph. Okay, yeah, right here. I even wrote down in Pasuk Chaf Beis, Kaspei Chaya Lesigim, Sov'ech Mahul Bamayim. Okay, what is Zolev Sovei? And it's in Mishlei that we in Perek Chaf Gimel that it talks about. What is Samach Beis Aleph? What is it referring to? To drink wine. Drinks, Zolel means he eats a lot. Sovei, he drinks a lot of yayin. So what happens is, Kaspei Chaya Lesigim, Sov'ech, you're drinking, you like the wine, it's mahul b'mayim, it's diluted, and uses sovech, the same thing. Yeah. Can I ask that? Oh, it's interesting. So we have, by the way, we have Chodesh and Shabbat are together, right? In a phrase. Where do we have that mentioned? Where do we have that? You can name me 3 places I could think of. 3 places. Okay, Chodesh and Shabbat. Okay, Yitzchak?
So there's the Isha Shunamis. He said her husband tells her, "Why are you going lo Chodesh lo Shabbos?"
Lo Chodesh lo Shabbat. It's Melachim Beis Perek Daled, yeah.
There's Chodesh for Shabbos Kirom Mikrog lo Uchal Oven Vatzara.
Gehen. We have Chodesh, that's in Perek Aleph in Sheyahu.
And V'ayom midei Chodesh b'Chodsho midei Shabbos v'Shabbato.
Right. That's should be Samech Vav, no? Last Perek, no?
Yeah, first parak and last parak.
Yeah. I have to admit, when I was a kid, and for years, I could not listen to Haftorah. To me, when I'd go with my father to shul in the morning, we'd go to shul. The only time I had free time was the Haftorah. So and when I got older, I would close my eyes, I'd rest during the Haftorah. It's unfortunate, but so now I spend a little more time. It's interesting. We also have in Yeshayahu Stom Mitna Amorah, mentioned it a couple of times. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I have. Right. Okay. With Karen Shan, we talked about that. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, in our material, and we've had this in other places where they talk about different musical instruments. So kinor, nevel, tof, khalil. So we have that in our material and someplace else. Where? Connection to what? Okay, so that it's two parts. Okay, Yitzchak.
So Yechezkel tells the king of Tzor that your Tupim and Mecholos were there from the day that you were born.
No, I was a little bit kind of specific. I said Kino Nevel Tov.
Tov v'Chalil Hiya Kinor v'Novel Tov v'Chalil v'Yayim Mishtehem v'Is Pol Hashem lo Yabitu Masei Adav lo Ro in Yeshayahu.
Right. Where's another place?
There's a bunch of places where there's like instruments where David's written
No. These ones. These ones. Remember that Shaul was given a sign, remember, in Perek Yud, in Shmuel Aleph.
The Nevi'im that are there?
Right. In Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yud. It says here in Pasuk Vav, Lufnehem Nevel V'Tov V'Chalil. It says Chinor. It doesn't have Chalil. It has Chalil, but it's Kinor, Nevel Tov, right? Just the order is different, right? It's a little different order, but it has the same four. Okay, that's regarding the Nevi'im, band of Nevi'im. Oh yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I think we'll call it. Is Amichai still on? Is he on or what? Well, maybe I'll send an email to say that include also Amos for next Michan for next week. It's tough. I don't want to give too much because it's possible that people have not spent as much time on trace. I find it very difficult to try to remember. There's so much stuff. We know Cheli Hagadol is the Arbe in Yoel, right? Okay, and there are if one remembers the Haftorah of Shabbat Shuvah, that can also give you some hints because it's really made of like three Mikel Kamochas and Micha, right? And then you have 3 parts. You have Yoel, you have Hosea, Yoel, and Micha. As the Haftarah and Shabbat Shuvah. But it's important, and the famous one, Lo Navi Anochi, Lo Ben Navi Anochi. Was it Boleshikmim? I think it says. I know it's like the 3rd and 4th line on the left-hand page, but it's easy. It's Perek Zayin Pasuk Yudalad. It's just, to me, it's just numbers. It's just 7 times 2 is 14, so it's 7 Zayin and Yudalad. But they don't expect you to know the numbers and the brakim. They expect you to know the material. So what can I tell you? But anyhow, listen, thank you very much. I apologize. I don't know where everybody else is, but I look at it that we have fun learning, and that's the most important thing. Do you realize at this point, do you know what percentage of the material we've gone through already? Take a guess. What percentage?
Half?
We started from Bereshit, right? Okay. How many out of the number of prakim that we've reviewed, what percentage do you think we've gone through?
Maybe 3/4 even.
Nope. Close, but no cigar. 70.6%. Can you imagine that? It's unbelievable. But what happens is that, I think that a lot of the material, except for, let's say, the remaining material, except for maybe Dvarim Bet, they expect you. I would assume they expect you, to quote or like the end of the passage from where it's which sefer it's from, less of detail oriented in that sense. That's my perception. But what do I know? Amichai might know better. And anyhow, it's getting late. I apologize, but I'll send out an email that that Micha's information is also next week. Okay.
Thank you.
Shavua tov.
What
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
Okay.
Bye.